We have a panel coming up and then our award show. And then, it'll be another conference for the books. So without further ado, we are getting closer to the end of the conference and our next session. This panel discusses, my microphone's cutting out. Nope, we're good. The Internet of Things, bringing marketing to everything we touch. Now, one of the most groundbreaking innovations in recent years, IoT has the potential to be a valuable resource for marketers as it can extract data from different interconnected devices and help them understand customer preferences on a deeper level. Let's learn more about this by welcoming up our moderator, Kris Olivo, and our panel of panelists. Come on up, guys. We're excited to have you.
You guys can go ahead. Am I using the, there we go. You guys good to go? All right, awesome. First and foremost, thank you guys for being here. Thank you to MARsum for throwing this event. I think a lot of people have learned a lot in the last couple days, and it's just nice to be able to get out and actually do something. So, you guys could be a lot of places, but you're here right now. You guys have stuck through. It's day 3, so we're super excited to get this discussion going. We're going to be talking about the Internet of Things and how that's impacting marketing in every area that we touch, right? My name's Kris. I'm from Almost Magical Marketing, based here in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. And here with me is Tom Ozer from Pipeline Strategies Consulting. We've got Kevin Venegas from Martin Venegas Agency. We've got Kyle here as well. Kyle, I'm sorry, tell us again where you're coming from.
Kyle Barron with KB Social Media.
KB Social Media and Advertising based out of Florida. And then we've got, I'm so sorry, my notes are all messed up. We've got Sheila from KEO Marketing, and then we've got Megan Thorpe, the Director of Marketing at WinNow Pro, right? So we're here today to talk about the Internet of Things and bringing marketing to everything we touch, right? IoT, or the Internet of Things, is essentially all the billions of devices connected around the world that are capturing data and sharing data, right? And you can take those devices and improve on your marketing efforts by tapping into how those things are instrumentalized. And so we're at the point right now with the evolution of technology where literally anything we touch can be turned into a marketing tool. Like the QR code on your Starbucks, there's QR codes that you see, like you'll see one on the screen after our presentation. You go to a gas pump, there's advertisements there. Basically anywhere we look, we're seeing marketing. So the first question that I have, and I actually would love if everybody would answer this question, is as marketing leaders, what does your company do? And with all this increase in competition, with all this IoT and us impacting the way we market our consumers, how do you stand out and how do you help your clients stand out amongst all this competition? So let's start off with that. If Tom, you could start us off, that'd be great.
Hey, thanks. Again, I'm a consultant on business process, hopefully best practices for companies. And when we look at sales and marketing in relationship to technologies, the Internet of Things, the things are whatever it is that we're selling, and we have to find a way to get a chip onto that thing. If it's not a QR code on the surface of a Starbucks cup, to get a chip on that thing and decide what are we going to try to do with the information that the product can feed back to us. There's a couple of things that can go on. We can just monitor the use of the product by a customer. Perhaps the device can talk back to the customer and tell them how well they're using it. Suppose it's a tennis racket and there's a little bit of an accelerometer in the base of the handle. And that can collect the motion, the smoothness, the acceleration in the context of an ever smarter product back at the office saying that, Peter Sampras does it this way. You're more of an Agassi. And I'm dating myself because these guys don't play tennis much anymore, right? But this is the issue. Sensing data, deciding how much you have to store, bring it back, turn it into even more enhanced services to the users, and you capture the customer's imagination and commitment to your product over a long period of time, and you capture the future value of that customer's relationship to their sport, to the use of the product in their living with your brand. I'll stop right there and let some others chime in on that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tom. Kevin.
So, Tom, are you the reason why every time I look at my Instagram, I get a post?
Get a what?
I get a post about an advertisement to how to learn how to speak better, how to connect with colleagues, and also do B2B marketing.
I think so.
Yeah, and that's I think that when we think about the everything that we touch in terms of marketing. Hello, everybody. My name's Kevin. I was on my way here to Vegas, and we're here to talk about the actually marketing aspect of everything that we do and we do. And as I was trying to connect with my fellow colleagues, I was on the plane and I couldn't connect to the internet. And
Tragic.
We were having a disclosure upon all of us, and we had a connection, and it really nailed it to the head in terms of like how to continue being part of that consumer journey. And today I hope that we could give you some advice how to be that marketer to actually give you the opportunity to have that journey with that consumer, so that when you're not connected to the Internet of Things, you are still connected to the brand because it's part of the consumer experience. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, but thanks for having us here.
Awesome. Kyle.
I think Kevin hit it. Is it on? Right? It's good? Sorry, can't hear it all up here. I think Kevin hit it on the head when he talks about the actual resonating with the consumer itself. We have such an approach now of how to connect to the customer, not just billboards and TVs and radios that we've seen for years, but now with the access of QR codes, there's no hesitation to put that QR code on a t-shirt, on a business card, anywhere that you can see the consumer engaging with the business. We have more options now than ever to really find our consumer, connect with them using these different aspects, such as the QR codes, the touch. I don't know if you guys have seen the rings, but they have rings now that can hold your contact information, which are incredible. The ability to really push your idea and your business in front of consumers when it's natural for them is the big game changer. So instead of constantly shoving our message in people's faces, we're there for the consumer when they're interested to find us using all these devices.
Facts.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sheila Clefcorn. I founded a marketing agency called KEO Marketing, and we're turning 22 years old in September. So marketing has changed a ton over that time. And the really incredible thing about the age that we're living in and IoT now is that we can track all that stuff as marketers that we didn't used to be able to track. We used to spend money and not know whether it worked. And the real power of IoT is that we can know where pretty much everything is working. So IoT tends to mostly impact operations. So a lot of it was happening here in the MGM, where we've been for the last few days, where they're encouraging us to check in electronically. They're asking us to check out electronically. You could stay here at the MGM and never actually talk to a staff person. That's really powerful because in each of those interactions, they're being tracked. And I already got a survey, even though I only checked out a couple of hours ago, wanting all of my data about what happened while I was here. And one of the questions they asked that I just laughed about was, how was your interaction with the staff? So as marketers, that's a gold mine, because the more we know about how people are using the things that we are marketing, the more effective we'll be. So our company helps B2B brands, companies who sell to other companies, leverage that data and that intelligence using predictive analytics, artificial intelligence. There's so many great tools these days that we can provide personalized, real-time experiences. It's sort of like what we used to think about in Star Trek land of what marketing might be like. We're actually in that time period, which makes it really exciting. So thanks for being here.
Okay, we got it to work. Hi, guys. My name is Megan Thorpe. I already had a really nice introduction, so thank you so much. The rest of the panel really dove deep on it, and I know we have a whole lot of other questions to go into, but just to touch base, to respond on this, I think what's really important is that there are so many options, and they're constantly expanding and developing, and opportunities for us to grab more customer data, more data, more data. But I think it's important for us to take a step back and say, how do our customers prefer to interact with us? Right? So making sure that even though there's 100 options, don't throw it all at your customers. Figure out and experiment and see what works and then expand on that. And then that creates new opportunities for innovation because now you've siloed one or two things that you know that work, and let's improve on those things. So that's part of what I want to share.
Awesome. No, I appreciate that. I think all of you guys kind of hit it on the head. And so I'm excited to keep talking. So first formal question is going to go to Tom. When it comes to, I'd like to take a step back, right? We're talking about all these products and all these physical devices that are connected. Tom, what does it specifically mean for a product to be smart and connected? And how is that going to impact our overall marketing opportunities?
So if you get a chance, in the last 5 years, there was a sequence of 3 papers written by Michael Porter, the great strategist out of Harvard, and a guy named John Heppelman who runs a company called PTC. And they wrote 3 articles on smart connected products. And that was the forerunner of what we're all thinking about as IoT right now. And you don't need to have genius products in every situation. Sometimes you just need to know that it's alive and in the hands of a customer and what it's doing. In other situations, you might want to be able to send a signal to the product. For example, Tesla. Tesla is constantly uploading the software in the Tesla, making it better as you're driving the car over time. So they're not controlling the car, but they're talking and improving the product as it goes. That's a smarter vehicle. That's a smarter product. To the point where you hand yourself over to allow Tesla or the Federal Aviation Commission or somebody to drive the car, fly the plane, or to do something else with your product to get the job done out of your own control, that's an even smarter product. The product does the job without you having to decide to do it. And then finally, we were talking in other conferences across the way on transportation. The idea is autonomy. When the product itself knows when the job is to be done, and it operates without a daily set of instructions from the human customer. So there are different levels of smart connected products, and it all depends upon what the job wants to be done, what people are willing to pay for, how much autonomy humans want in the use of the product, and how much they're willing to give over to the product. So that's a bit of a clinical perspective, but now maybe perhaps for an experiential perspective, my colleague to the right or whomever.
Yeah, it's a battle that I take with Tom when you mention experiential and like the thing of having automated preferences that consumers engage without you even knowing how you're communicating to a prospective consumer because they know your knowledge and your data. And in conversation with some of my colleagues here, we talked about nowadays our brands know exactly who you are, what you do, where you are, where you shop, how you identify yourself. We always talk about demographics and how to connect with people and how we connect with them. My colleague right now is getting a check-in out survey. She hasn't even checked out. I'm getting messages to be a part of another conference, and we're a part of this algorithm. And part of my role is experiential, and with the experiences and the things that we do after the pandemic, it was so impactful to know that how do you connect with people without not connecting with them in person? And IoT is so beautiful that it gives you a perspective to have that consumer engagement without having that. So I welcome it, but I also have experiences that I'd love to discuss more about how unique it is that it's evolved to a perspective that nowadays with our brands and who we work with, the information of IoT, I think it's very crucial and very important, and the data that is being shared with is even more, I would say, a perspective that it's something unique that should be suaved, but also acknowledged and I would say kind of like have a relationship with that person.
And just one last thing about the importance of that relationship. Remember, when we used to buy products, we always got that yellow index card asking us to register as users of the product. And I don't recall in my life ever registering at a manufacturer's request to be informed about the product. I always thought that they were looking for my, but I'm very surprised in the modern domain how often, and I watch myself giving up so much identity information as I register for online products and online connected physical products. So I'm buying into the relationship with the product manufacturer more now than I ever did before.
The beauty of a CRM.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. So this next question, I want to talk about, we're talking a lot about just in generalities, but I want to go a little bit more specific down the B2B side of things. You guys mentioned that you work B2B. And so my next question is for Sheila and Megan. How will the Internet of Things show up in marketing for B2B companies specifically? So anybody here that's B2B, make sure you pay attention. And can you give some actual examples of how those things can be implemented?
So in terms of what's kind of happening now and what's applicable to me, so hopefully it's applicable to you, I know a lot of the information that we're getting is helping our strategists build better campaigns for the dealerships that we serve. And I know that our sister company actually created a product and released it last year, and it was perfect timing. It was actually helping enterprise-level accounts detect spacing, be able to detect body temperatures, be able to detect room capacities, all of these things that were relevant to COVID. And what is the best part about the Internet of Things is not just necessarily the data collection, but it's the actionable insights that it creates afterwards. It's those alerting systems. It's the opportunity to basically use technology to take the manual work out of some of the daily interactions and the tasks that we have and delegate that so that we can focus on some of these other things that allow us to provide more value to our customers. So that's a specific example of how I've seen it. I know you have a lot of experience in the B2B, so I'm curious to hear this.
Is a great example of adapting IoT and analytics to COVID, which has been really useful. And there's been so many great things that have accelerated in the past year. They talk about how, how we stream movies to how we travel to how we think about so many things has changed, and we've advanced 10 years. So we do business-to-business marketing. We do a lot of work for tech companies. I'll give you an example of a data center company that we work with that, when people say my stuff is in the cloud, what they really mean is that it's in a building on a server somewhere and you access it via the cloud. Well, that data in that building, the actual business model of data centers is very simple. You have data on computers in a building that has to be cooled and it can never go down. It's a very, very lucrative business model, much more lucrative than marketing. And we use IoT in those buildings to monitor the temperature of the servers, to monitor airflow, to monitor the actual software on the servers, all of those kinds of things, because you know what happens when you're looking at your device and the data isn't there. You get really frustrated, right?
Yeah.
Especially when it's your email or your social media that you live on, those kinds of things. That's kind of a basic level of IoT. What happens now is that we can actually predict. So we can use weather modeling to predict when there's going to be a power surge. We can use all kinds of things, including RFID codes in the servers. When people walk past the server, it's really important for security, given how much cybercrime is happening these days. These kinds of things are really important. And the more that we know that data and that we can use it to market to companies who need that kind of protection, the more successful those companies will be. So whether it's, when you're at Walt Disney World and they give you an armband and they can tell you which line to get into because the lines are shorter over here, that's an example of IoT. And then the data center example is an example in B2B. So it's really ever present everywhere in our lives.
Very interesting. I don't think a lot of people give consideration to all those back-end processes and how those things are affected when it comes to how the Internet of Things have impacted all our overall technology. Like, I never once think about using IoT for the cooling sensors in a server building. So that's super interesting. We talked a lot
I think
about.
that's the best part about IoT is it's all the stuff we take for granted.
No, yeah, I would
Things
say
that you don't even see.
kind of like an iceberg, right? I think most people only kind of see the surface level, but there's an entire ecosystem that most people aren't aware of. Now, you spoke a lot about data specifically. When it comes to marketing in general, using the Internet of Things, you're going to be creating lots of data and looking at all these different data points. So what kind of data do you think that companies should be looking at? Because this can get very overwhelming. And how do you think they should be organizing it and optimizing on? And what are some good techniques to kind of leverage and manage all of those things? I would love to get you guys' opinion on that.
All right. Well, I'm going to bring it back to a relevant example for myself. We're doing a ton of, we have a huge database for one of the new products that we have released. And in terms of managing data, because honestly, that is the biggest issue, is the accessibility of data, and then it's not being overwhelmed with it, right? So, and in a startup setting, right, you have these lean, agile teams, so there's a lack of resources. So not everyone is gifted with hundreds of data scientists and all of these teams that kind of do that work for you. So from an agile, lean team's perspective, I think it's a matter of having a really strong strategy ahead of time so that you can outline your objectives to understand what you need to accomplish with this data. And that kind of helps you, and it sounds very simplistic, but when you are presented with the data, it's overwhelming. And you just kind of start putting things together. So I would say when you're in these positions with these new tools and new things, I would go in with an objective, and then I would apply with your Internet of Things devices, right? Regardless of what industry you are, I think it all comes back into having a focused center of what your objective is and being able to pull from that. And I know that you're going to have different data points as marketers. We're all very excited about the new positioning and the new testing and things we can do. But I would say stay strong to your strategy and be able to kind of position and know that there's probably 100 different ways that you can slice it, and don't get too overwhelmed with it.
Yeah, I think it's very, very easy to get overwhelmed if you don't have a simple, streamlined strategy. So I really like what you said about taking everything and kind of boiling it down and making it as simplistic as possible and really approaching it with intent. Because if you're not approaching something with intent, then you're approaching it randomly. And if you're trying to figure it out, you can't wing everything. And so optimizing your data isn't something that you should just wing. So no, I like that answer. Did anybody else want to touch on that?
How many of you have data scientists on your, or analytics people in your organization? So not so many. And that's really the challenge. I was at another conference recently and they said, it's hard to find data analysts. It's one of the top jobs out there and we don't all have access to them. So there are some amazing free tools that the big boys give us, like Google Data Studio. It's incredibly powerful. And I used to have 3 people on my team whose whole job was to calculate the analytics for our clients of how the campaigns were working. And that was all backward looking. It wasn't even forward looking predictive analytics. Today I have 1. And so this is how IoT and how the world is moving has helped, because I only need 1 now because of Google Data Studio. So Google Data Studio is a really powerful tool to take data from a lot of different areas. So you can take data from all of your digital advertising campaigns. You can take data from Salesforce. You can take data from other platforms, and you can pull it all together, and you can model it without needing to have a data scientist degree. So as everything gets more complicated, some things get more simple. And if you can use Amazon Web Services also has some free tools. They can help you with AI. There are, nobody can hire an AI person because Google and Facebook and Amazon have all of them. And so what do the rest of us do? We use the free tools that Amazon Web Services and Google provide so that we can get access to this data. But really,
Allegedly.
It's amazing what these tools give us.
No, it is amazing, and it's kind of funny. We're kind of peasants when it comes to what we have to deploy.
Well,
but
I would, honestly, I'm happy about it because I
Yeah.
couldn't afford one of those guys.
Yeah. No, there's something to be said about knowing what tools to access. I think our society as a whole has been advanced by tools, so you can go a long way just by knowing what to use. So I'd like to ask, when it comes to all this marketing, we've inherently kind of changed our attention span over time. With all these different areas we're touching, we're bringing marketing to everything we touch, right? So if you look at Starbucks, like I said, you talk about gas stations earlier, even the devices we use for entertainment, those are connected. Like I was reading an article earlier about a company that got funded by like Floyd Mayweather and a lot of other big professional fighters. It's called Fight Camp, and they have a big heavy bag that has sensors, two-way sensors in it, and it makes you a better boxer over time. It's kind of like bringing Peloton to fight sports. And so as we're doing all these different things and we're marketing to people in different areas, because best believe if you have one of those, you're going to start seeing ads, or if you've even looked at those things, you're going to start seeing ads. And then that gets into the aspect of like, okay, we have all these things that are connected and shared, and all those things are overall dropping our attention span. Microsoft did a study in the year 2000, for those of you guys that don't know, and our attention span around then was 15 seconds. Now they did it another 15 years later, it dropped to 8 seconds. Earlier we heard that we have to touch people 20 times, to get them to do anything now. And so pretty much everywhere we put our attention to, we're seeing marketing, and we're having to constantly increase our tempo. Now, when it comes down to it, how do you think brands need to address all of these changes to continue to win in this ecosystem? I would love for Kevin, could you give us your opinion?
Yeah, of course. As we're talking about these things, when I work with a client in my experiential side of world, the things that we do, I was just going back to, I had another kind of like case study I wanted to talk about, but I think the best one I would say is when we were here in Vegas, we created the Life is Beautiful Festival. And I worked with Jack Daniels as a client, so I worked with Brown-Forman. And the interesting thing that we did at Life is Beautiful as you arrived to the Life is Beautiful Festival is we actually tracked you through your RFID, through a beacon that gave you an opportunity to connect with us on a database that gave us the traction, amount of minutes you were engaging, what you drank, where you went to the bathroom. Fucking sounds weird.
Wow. Yeah,
where you went to the bathroom, what
weird.
you ate, where places you went to, the music you saw, where you stayed, who you connected with, and it's an incredible amount of data, to your point, that it's kind of like overwhelming at points. But the data that we got from that was so crucial for us to design and create new experiences that meant that were more impactful for our clients and then consumers, because we understood the consumer behavior because of the IoT of things. So I think being cognizant of IoT, being an expert at the perspective of what the data that you receive is just as important as the person who receives it and then creates a actual campaign that then you go back to your clients. So understanding that, I think it's very important. And how I become in our agency, and we work with almost 300 different clients, is, if I have to have another recap about how the client felt or how the consumer had an experience about what they felt and what they did, if I have IoT of things that dealt with that information, Jesus Christ, give me a freaking data. I'll buy it today. So I think that is the game changer, and understanding that, but also understanding that IoT can help and also create new experiences, but also dive into the people and the people who we want to target.
Absolutely, I think that's really important. I would love to get your opinion on this, Kyle.
Yeah, I think what it really creates is the ability for exclusion, right? As marketers, we try to niche down as much as possible to the consumer that we're talking to so that it resonates with them more and more. The more data points that we have, and when we look at that in specific KPIs, we give us the opportunity to create exclusions, which can hone in on the consumer base that is actually going to be focused on the campaign. So the more data points that we're getting from these IoTs and the more information we have about our consumers, it allows us to create exclusions that can really hone in on the consumer that we're looking to target and define who we're looking for a little bit harder. I think that's really, when we talk about the data points, we talk about the KPIs that we get from those data points. It gives us a clear image of what we have and give us a clear image of what we don't have. And when we know what we don't have, we can attack that in a different way, and we're very specific on how we present ourselves to the customer.
I think that's really important. I think as we progress, it's going to force us to not only be a lot more data-minded and kind of more scientific approach, you know, when it comes to how we roll out our marketing and how we look at everything as far as our execution, but it's also going to force us to be a lot more creative, you know, because everybody's going to keep constantly innovating, and so we're going to have to constantly dive into data, look for new trends, and then also stay on top of things by creating new trends. You know, I think as marketers, a lot of times everybody's following everybody else's trends, but as we evolve more, we're gonna have to step out of that a little bit more and start creating more. And so I think we're getting short on time here, so I do wanna conclude. For this last portion, I would love for everybody to take out their pens and notes, because we're gonna do some value drops. And so, yeah, important.
Should we get the QR?
Yeah, can you guys put the QR code up here as well? I know that we sent that back there. All right, fantastic. So if you guys scan this, there's a little slide that we prepared for you guys. Kevin, did you make it? Yeah, but Kevin made it. Thank you to Kevin.
We thought it'd be kind of cool to have like the IoT thing, so you can scan and be a part of this experience as well.
Boom, exactly. So real life experience, guys, using it. So what are the top takeaways? I mean, we've heard lots of information over the past couple of days. You know, we just talked about a lot of different things. So I want to make sure that everybody gets the things cemented in everyone's minds that they want to cement. So what are the top takeaways you want our audience to understand, research, or implement, you know, to be able to take the most out of this conference and everything we just spoke about? I'd love to hear everyone's
I can
answers
field
on
this
that.
one first if we're good. You can close us out. So from my perspective, everyone on this panel is going to give you amazing takeaways about the Internet of Things. But one thing that I really want to focus on, and that's really been a huge influence in my success in my life, and I'm sure all of you, because you're all here, is talking about this buzzword of innovation, but thinking about what it is at its core. It's basically a motivation, an aspiration for people to get up every day. And if what you are doing doesn't motivate you to inspire you to do more things, then don't do it. Go do something else. So we're only able to do this for so long. So I hope that coming here and hearing all of us and getting to meet really, really incredible people has inspired you to want to do something different after the 4th of July weekend, when you guys are all back in your offices. So that's what I hope. I hope you can break down those barriers of innovation and just continuously inspire from within.
Thank you for that.
Thanks, Megan. So my thoughts about the takeaways for this IoT as it relates to marketing is that you can use IoT, meaning making devices and things more intelligent, to improve personalization, to improve interactions, to improve integrations, to improve analytics, to improve monitoring, and to improve protection. So personalization, interaction, integration, analytics, monitoring, and protection. Those are all things that from an operational perspective in a business, that if you can do those really well, you will have a standout brand. And we may not think about it every day, but IoT actually helps with all of those.
one thing I would say is, as marketers, we have to understand that we are the voice that the consumers see, right? So being open-minded to the ideas that we've heard at this conference, being open-minded to evolving your agency, to taking in QR codes, to changing the methods of what you do in marketing as these new concepts come out is our jobs, and to do it at the best of our ability for our consumers, to evolve their business, to connect them to their customers a little bit more, and to personalize. I think the evolution of marketing is really going to come down to our ability to personalize our message and our presentation of our clients to consumers in each individual factor so that it resonates with the consumer more and more. And throughout this conference, we've heard from clothing to QR codes and the Internet of Things, all different aspects that show how technology is developing in a way that will help us resonate with our customers more now than ever.
I would say like my key takeaway is the power of who we are, and the power as marketers to challenge ourselves to think outside the box, but not only think about Internet of Things, but also think about why we're doing the things we do, the things that we touch. So during the pandemic, I know this word gets used so much. It's called pivot. Everyone says pivot. What did you do, Kevin? Pivot, 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 everywhere. And I did have to pivot, but the things, when I look back at what makes me successful is because the thing that I was putting on the internet was something that was meaningful. So as we close this conference, I just want to remind us all of what we went through, the things that we saw, the things that we read, who we are, and the power that we have to create, to identify and create brands that create the identity of who we are. We create brands and we create experiences that identify the culture of who we are. We create the ability to be a part of something bigger than who we are. And whatever is that you put on that internet and be that thing that you touch, make sure that it's worthwhile. So that's my closing remark.
Yeah, I like that. What Kevin just said is the power is in the things that we do and the things that we touch. So the internet started out as this communication between researchers and people, and the internet was this human thing. And then we evolved to the Internet of Things, which nobody talked about here today because this is about people and marketing, but the Internet of Things was about machines talking to machines in a networked way. But what's really exciting is what everyone on this panel alluded to, is we are things. We happen to be our favorite things, but we are things too. And now with the things that we buy and the things that we use as a product and a person in the use of those things, that's the exciting place, is to really figure out what people aspire to and accomplish through the things that they acquire and use. And that's, I think, going to be the magic of the Internet of Things for marketers and providers of goods and services that speak to the personalization that we are with our things. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. One last quick question. What's the best way for any of these people to connect with you guys? If they want to connect with you, if they have questions about any of the things you talked about, could you drop your socials and stuff like that real fast?
Yeah, just scan that QR code. I think we all put our contact details on there.
Can we put that up for 1 second? One more
Speaking
time.
of the
Our
Internet of
lives
Things.
are on that QR code.
Yeah, we're proud of our QR code. So
Our credit
let us have
cards
our
and
QR
our
code.
social security numbers, have at it, gang.
There you go.
I like martinis dirty, please.
All right, well, thank you guys so much for having us. Hopefully we'll see you at the next one.
Awesome. Thank you, Kris.
Thank you.
Thank you.